because Eric Adams and his administration aren't actually doing, in my view, the things that would solve homelessness in their city. This military veteran is going to go to jail for the failed policies of Eric Adams in this case. New York City is known for a lot of things. Pizza, the subway system, the mafia, due to prohibition, the first Avengers movie, Wall Street. What else? What else is New York known for? Right. So now New York subways are also going to be known for the place in which a homeless man was choked to death on a subway car for the justification of being kind of annoying. Let's take a look. As far as I've seen, I have not seen too much of this, but let's take a look at the video, and then we'll read an article from the New York Times to kind of get a better look at what all went down.
Now to the fallout after a man was killed in a chokehold by a bystander in a New York City subway car. Whit Johnson is on the scene for us at the subway stop where it all happened. Good morning, Whit.
I believe he wants to be known as Vengeance.
Robin, good morning. This case is already getting strong reaction on all sides. New York City has had a number of alarming incidents recently on the subway, but this time when a passenger decided to take matters into his own hands, it resulted in a man's death. A warning now.
This is what happens.
Is disturbing.
This morning, authorities now investigating this deadly chokehold caught on camera on a New York City subway. Witnesses say Jordan Neely, who is believed to be homeless, was shouting and threatening passengers when a 24-year-old Marine veteran jumps in, placing Neely in a chokehold. The disturbing video of Monday's altercation shows the veteran lying beneath Neely, holding him in a headlock position as the 30-year-old struggles.
That's not a headlock. That's a... Okay. That's a sleeper hold.
Eventually loses
That's a fucking rear... Well, it's a rear naked choke, actually.
Dead at the hospital. A medical examiner ruling it a homicide by compression to his neck.
Because what people are constantly given is this narrative that homeless people are dangerous. People think that they can take matters into their own hands.
Some protesters gathering Wednesday calling for an arrest. The man who pinned Neely down was questioned and then released, telling investigators he was trying to help his fellow passengers who felt scared and threatened. Neely is recognizable to some in New York City as a Michael Jackson impersonator.
I was wondering, I saw a picture
of him. Records show he'd been arrested more than 40 times on the subway. Mayor Eric Adams urging patience as the DA investigates.
I was a former transit police officer, and I responded to many jobs where you had...
I have not heard great things about Eric Adams from some people who live in New York City. Very much a cop mayor.
Had a passenger
from what I understand.
Someone, and so we cannot just blatantly say what a passenger should or should not do in a situation like that. We should allow the investigation to take its course.
Now, authorities say in addition to his dozens of prior arrests, Neely also had a documented history of mental health-related issues. The Coalition for the Homeless called this a complete travesty and said this is another failure of providing critical mental health services to the homeless population. George.
Okay, Whit, thanks.
All right, so let's tackle this from two different places, shall we? Let's I'll let the video play a little bit. Let's tackle this from a few different angles here. All right, so what should the passengers be doing while we'll put this on this, we'll do this. What should the passengers be doing in this situation? So we have laws against vigilantism. The reason why we have those laws is because we came to a decision long ago in this country that we cannot allow citizens to enforce the law amongst themselves. The reason for that is simply that people are untrained. They are unprepared for certain kinds of situations because of that lack of training. But also, we would then, each individual case would be, and each individual interaction would be pretty much victim or should I say adhered to by each individual's personal biases. The concept of a local police force is to have a responding group of people who are trained to deal with people in these situations, trained to know the laws. Any police officer will tell you there are safe ways to apply a rear naked choke, and there are unsafe ways depending on where you position your forearm and your like bicep, however, whichever way you're restricting someone in that chokehold. There are two different ways. You can put them to sleep by, I believe it's pretty much putting pressure down on their trachea. I could be wrong about the exact organ but it's in here. It was pretty much you push pressure upon that and it knocks somebody out, puts them to sleep. They're incapacitated, you're good. They're still breathing, they're fine. The alternative is going fully under someone's neck and choking and basically choking them out. Completely closing their airways. This is what happened in this scenario. Now, this person was a veteran, a former Marine and whatnot. They should know the difference in this like scenario, in this like small interpersonal interaction. I would think that a veteran would kind of know the difference between a dangerous, life-threatening chokehold and a sleeper hold, essentially. But regardless of what his personal training is, the expectation that any normal American is going or should be is going to know that or should know that, I think is a bit unreasonable. That is a threshold that I think most people would say not everyone needs or is going to volunteer to know. And it's why we have police. In this case, this person was, this person was yelling at people. It sounded like they threatened them. We're going to read an article. Hopefully that gives us a little bit more information. But obviously we'll say that they were causing quite a scene. Clearly enough that somebody decided to restrain them. And I really don't have a problem from a, in general of somebody, if they believe that, somebody else is acting erratic and dangerously, to subdue that person. But again, I need to emphasize this. There are repercussions to basically incentivizing a system of citizen on citizen law enforcement. Again, not all citizens know all the laws. Not all citizens know all the chokeholds. You see it all the time where people, act a certain way and they get knocked the fuck out in the streets. And what happens sometimes? Sometimes they get knocked out. Sometimes they get knocked out. And I think I remember seeing one. Here's a good example is I remember there was like some customer getting really mouthy with the service staff. And they got really aggressive with somebody, and a passerby, another customer, came by and decked them in the back of the fucking, like, from behind and knocked their bitch ass out. Now, do I think that person should have done that? I'm not 100% sure. But there is an argument to be made, or at the very least, there's like a, look, if you're going to cause a stir, if you're going to act violently or erratically towards people, don't be surprised when somebody sits your ass down. But, and this is, there is that angle of the argument. But incentivizing that can be incredibly dangerous because one person's erratic behavior is another person's, non-erratic behavior. One person's erratic behavior is another person just sitting on the subway while, let's be honest here, not being a race that somebody might like. Just we're unfortunately, these situations are victims to the biases of people. So, vigilante justice, and we all, when people are being assholes and they get knocked out, that's one thing, right? But what's the consequence? What's the other consequence of that, right? Because I've seen it before, also in same type of videos. Some dude mouths off, he gets knocked the fuck out. You know what he does? He falls into a fucking curb, cracks his fucking skull. That guy bleeds out on the street, possibly dies, if not extremely concussed. And the reason we have police is to handle these situations. If somebody is acting erratically on the subway, leave them the fuck alone. If they touch you, if they bother you, I got no problem with you defending yourself. But there is a certain amount of restraint that we have to have. And unfortunately, this veteran is going to pay the cost for killing this guy. And I think that that's perfectly fine. And I do think it's fine to argue that we have a perspective on homeless people that is dangerous to homeless people just by their existence. Unfortunately, a lot of these people have mental health issues. A lot of these people do act erratically. This is something that I'm fine with copping to. You know, a lot of there are numerous stories of people having really negative and really sketchy interactions with homeless people, but we need to approach them as a society, as people like anybody else, and try to solve those problems. The problems that they're having. A lot of them are having mental health crises, which means we have to have people available to respond to them. We also need to have housing for them. There's a lot of things and solutions that we could go in to fix the homeless problem, but none of them are regular citizens putting people into chokeholds, regular citizens executing homeless people. It is calling the police, who hopefully have have like a caseworker of some kind, to get them into a system so that they can address their mental health issues. These are kind of the, I think, actual solutions. And, there's going to be activists who are going to say that this is indicative of the way that we treat homeless people. And I do think that there is truth to that. We do see them as particularly dangerous and just kind of lesser than, to an extent. And we need to fix that. Yeah. And in terms of cops on the subway, I think there should be police on the subway, the same way there should be police, on the streets and everywhere else. But we also need to, I think police and, mental health specialists as a combo are would be the best solution, because unfortunately, and this is a problem we have in policing in this country. Unfortunately, we leave a lot of things up to police, a lot of interactions that they are not trained for, and that they are, quite frankly, not really applicable to. They don't have the tools to deal with some of these things. So we need to reform policing and what we expect and kind of what we ask of police also. That also goes along with the, a handful of other police reforms that I'd like to see. But we make police what they are, and it needs to suit our needs as a citizenry, as a population. But anyway, let's read the article. Let's see if we get any more details before I spend too much time on it. Subway rider choke homeless man to death. Medical examiner rules. Jordan Neely died after a man held him in a chokehold on Wednesday. The medical examiner's office said the cause of death was compression of the neck, ruled it a homicide. Yeah, unfortunately, and let's be clear. This veteran is probably going to get convicted, most likely, and that's really unfortunate. But this is the risk you take. Not calling the cops and taking actions in your own hands. The death of a New York City subway rider who was placed in a chokehold by another passenger on Monday was ruled a homicide. The city's medical examiner confirmed on Wednesday evening. Okay, so the medical examiner came out on Wednesday. The actual thing happened on Monday. Gotcha. The man who died, Jordan Neely, was homeless and had been screaming at passengers when the other rider wrapped his arms around Mr. Neely's neck and held him for several minutes until he went limp. Mr. Neely died from compression to his neck as a result of the chokehold, according to Julie Bulker, a spokeswoman for the medical examiner. There's no reason. Okay, so, details are going to be, I think, a little, what's the word? Foggy. And the idea that this person held them for several minutes, I don't know what they mean by several, because to knock somebody out by compressing their trachea, again, I don't remember. It's up here. It's a nerve that's up here. It might be the trachea, it might not. But compressing that, you can put somebody to sleep within 20 seconds. It's very quick. Putting something in a chokehold takes a much longer time. Takes probably around 1 to 2 minutes as they gasp for air. The process, the entire process of getting knocked out or getting choked out, very, very different things. And it's why also chokeholds are banned for the police in what's it called? In New York, I believe. Unless I'm pretty sure after Eric Gardner, they got rid of chokeholds because it's just unsafe. There's no reason why you couldn't put somebody in an arm bar or literally anything. You know, there are a lot of restraining holds you could put somebody in. The man who died, the killing on an F train in Manhattan has led to investigations by both the police and prosecutors. A spokesman for Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg said, as of Wednesday afternoon, nobody had been arrested. As part of our rigorous ongoing investigation, we will review the medical examiner's report, assess all available video and photo footage, identify and interview as many witnesses as possible, and obtain additional medical records, the district attorney's spokesman said in a statement. This investigation is being handled by a senior experienced prosecutor, and we will provide an update when there is additional public information to share. On Monday, a man who was riding in the same subway car went up to Neely, a 30-year-old Michael Jackson impersonator, who was yelling that he was hungry and ready to die. The 24-year-old man who choked Mr. Neely has not been identified. The episode, filmed on a nearly 4-minute video that shows other riders helping to pin down Mr. Neely while the others looked on, has led the police investigation and spurred advocates for the homeless, city officials, and others to call for an arrest. Governor Kathy Hochul said she needed to review the incident more closely, but called the man's death troubling. Actually, do we have, oh yeah, this was from like back in the day. Do we have a, can I see the video? Is there a, I thought it would be on Twitter somewhere. I want to see the video. Like the actual, because we saw like a super clip of it. Because keep in mind, there's no reason why multiple people couldn't just hold the guy down. Okay. Yeah, man involved. They said it's like a 4-minute video. Let's see. God damn it, shut the fuck up. God damn it, C-SPAN, does C-SPAN fucking have it? Because god damn. Probably not, right? God damn it. All these fucking news. Oh, Jesus. 14 beats teacher unconscious because she took away his Christ above. Okay, do you shut the fuck up? Thank you. Okay. It's just the video's audio is fucked. Okay. How am I supposed to, oh wait, no. I'm stupid. Sorry. I had this on 1 at 0.5. Okay. Yeah, like, keep in mind, this homeless guy is surrounded by, what, we can see 3 other people? And then this guy who's choking him? There's no reason why he couldn't release him, and then they just hold him down. Yeah, like, these people are either fucking idiots and didn't just tell him, hey, you can release the hold, we'll just hold him, or they didn't care. And that's kind of the thing that homeless advocates are really upset by, is that there was this just kind of onlooker energy from the people watching this guy die. Let's see, deeply disturbing. Yeah. The incident comes as the city grapples with how to reduce both crime and the number of people with mental illness living on the streets, while also respecting the rights of its most vulnerable residents. The two issues have become the twin focuses of Mayor Eric Adams, who has sent more police to patrol train stations and to sweep homeless encampments, even as he has supported policies that offer a gentler approach to people who are homeless and mentally ill. So keep in mind, sending police down to train stations is all well and good, but if you're just going to kick homeless people out, you're just displacing those people. That's not a solution to the problem. It's just I can't even say it's a band-aid, because what you're really doing is clearing out that space for the people who are right there, but they're just going to move to another. Like, the problem never gets solved by breaking up these encampments. This is why a lot of homeless advocates argue for subsidized or, like, just generally public housing for these people, because we find that once people are able to be housed again at no cost, they're able to get back up on their feet and eventually move into paid housing. Any criminal case could come down to whether the man who placed the rider in a chokehold was justified in using force, according to legal specialists. Under New York law, a person may use physical force on another person if they have a reasonable belief that is necessary to defend themselves or others. So this is like this is I think a bit of a problem. This is so the reasonable belief part of this is what's really going to either put this veteran in jail or not, because he's now going to have to prove that he had a reasonable that he had there was a reasonable threat to hold that chokehold for the amount of time that he did. And because of the allowance for that, because of this law that permits people to use force and be very vague about it, this guy might end up going to jail for homicide. I have no doubt that the veteran in this case probably was just trying to look out for his fellow riders. I don't think that it doesn't appear as of right now that there was any malicious intent in him putting that chokehold on, but there does seem to be kind of a disregard for that person's life to a degree. It might be informed by their homeless status. We don't know yet, but certainly we've seen it in the past before. So this is just this might have cost this guy, and because Eric Adams and his administration aren't actually doing, in my view, the things that would solve homelessness in their city, he is now, quite frankly, in a way, by setting up the structures that he has, he is this like war veteran or whatever, this military veteran is going to go to jail for the failed policies of Eric Adams in this case. If you don't fix the fucking homeless situation in your city, then you leave citizens with the, I guess, understanding that it's up to them to solve these problems on their own. And then they run afoul of the law. So, New York person may be physically, but person can only use deadly force if they have a reason to believe that the attacker is doing or about to do the same. Yeah, and the police and the prosecutors must determine what the intentions of the rider were when he grabbed Mr. Neely, if the rider felt physically threatened, or if other passengers believed that they had a reason to fear for their safety, said Karen Friedman Agnifilio. I don't know if that's really. A former prosecutor in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, the DA's office is going to do a painstaking investigation where they are going to interview every witness and look at the video frame by frame. The police who questioned the 24-year-old man and let him go on Monday night said they were investigating the death. A spokesman for the Manhattan District Attorney said that they were also investigating. An official briefed on the investigation confirmed Mr. Neely's identity, although the police have yet to do so. So also, okay. I don't know if we're gonna watch. I saw Ben Shapiro has a video on this. I don't know if we'll watch it, mainly because I don't really know if I want to wade into that. But let's be really clear about this. And this is where people, this might trigger some people. So, trigger warning on this one. Do you think if Jordan Neely, a black man, had choked out a white homeless guy, do you think the police would have let them go? I personally don't. There doesn't seem to be, especially here in the U.S., a history of black, suspects being allowed to leave a crime scene after a pretty open and obvious crime has been committed. Just saying, it's not something I see very often or hear about very often. The police who Mayor Eric Adams called the death tragic and said, quote, "There's a lot we don't know about what happened here. However, we do know that there were serious mental health issues in play here, which is why our administration has made record investments in providing care to those who need it and getting people off the streets and subways and out of dangerous situations." There were signs that the debate about the outcome had already begun on CNN. The mayor urged caution, rebutting a statement by Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez that Mr. Neely had been murdered. Well, if it's a homicide, then yeah, that is kind of what happened. He added, quote, "I don't think that's very responsible at the time where we're still investigating the situation. Let's let the DA conduct his investigation with the law enforcement officials." Homeless advocates stood behind the victim. Quote, "There was no empathy on that train car. said Kareem Walker, an organizing and outreach specialist at the Urban Justice Center who works with people who are homeless. There should be accountability for the death of Mr. Neely, he said. Yeah, absolutely. You can say whatever you want about, homelessness policy, but certainly, I think it's indisputable that there was no empathy for that person, while they were being slowly choked to death. Quote, he did not need he did not need to, nor did he deserve to die in the manner that he did. That's what really scares me, and that's what really breaks my heart. Witnesses said that Mr. Neely was acting in a, quote, hostile and erratic manner toward the passengers on the train, according to police. Juan Alberto Vasquez, a freelance journalist who was riding on the train and who shot the video, said the victim was yelling about being hungry and thirsty. I don't mind going to jail and getting life in prison. Mr. Vasquez recalled him saying, I'm ready to die. And keep in mind, if he's like hungry and thirsty, he's probably just going to steal somebody's water bottle, which I know this will sound unreasonable, but honest to God, like, they're homeless. You could probably just throw them your water bottle and you'll be fine. Obviously, if you have like a metal one or like your own personal one, sure. But like, there's been tons of times I've gone outside of like 7-Elevens and I'll just buy them coffee or hot chocolate when it's hot or when it's like freezing outside or snowing or something. Like, being nice to people doesn't really, like, I get that there's a cost associated with it. You got to spend a few extra dollars, but that kind of empathy kind of, I think, goes a long way in our relationship to homeless people, in the way that we approach them and see them. If that dude was like, oh, screaming, I'm hungry, then, if somebody may have perked up and be like, yo, do you want like some food? I have some food I'm willing to share with you. This entire situation could have been avoided. Absolutely. Yeah. That's just, let's see. Okay. That kind of language might have led to other passengers to believe that Mr. Neely was going to do something violent, said Ton Spodek, a criminal defense lawyer. I imagine that the collective feeling on the train was that something was happening. And let's be clear, a collective anxiety over this is not an excuse to kill a guy. It's just not. The case raises questions about how people respond to actions of the, quote, poor and unhoused, and most especially those perceived as suffering from mental illness, said Christopher Fee, an English professor at Gettysburg College who teaches about homelessness. Those bystanders may have felt threatened by the victim, but they were not, in fact, attacked by him. Still, they watched him die. Left-leaning politicians called the death of Mr. Neely, who was black, a, quote, lynching by the other rider, who appeared to be white. Okay. There's a reason why people use this kind of the language of lynching for this. There's a reason why. And the reason is rhetoric and to grab your attention. That's why. You can say, is that accurate? Probably not. I don't think that would be an accurate description of a lynching, unless we're saying lynching is just the killing of any black person by a white person, which I don't really think we need a term for that. That's just murder. And also, lynching implies a racial element to this. We don't know if there is or if there isn't. We just know that there seems to be a disregard for the homeless people. A disproportionate amount happen to be black. But all of that said, the reason why this language is used is to catch your eye and to catch your attention. The goal of activists is to, do the pay attention. They want, their goal is to get your attention, to like inform you of of something that is happening that they are trying to stop. And sometimes, it's for, they're trying to, they're activists on both sides, obviously, for sides that want to stop things and sides that want to promote things. So, but that's the whole point. That's why you word things like that. It's no different than, it's no different than how I do, titles in, on YouTube videos, or anybody really does. You want to cast the attention to somebody to communicate your broader point. Now, how far you're willing to go is a different conversation, but there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. Let's see. Adrian Adams, the city council speaker, said in a statement that the legal system's initial response to Mr. Neely's killing was disturbing and put, quote, on display for the world the double standards that black people and other people of color continue to face, adding, the perceptions of black people have long been interpreted through a distorted, racialized lens that aims to justify violence against us. Yeah, keep in mind, there's a long history of people being made nervous just kind of through the existence of a black person in their vicinity. You know, this happened, I believe, you know, this happened in the past with women's restrooms. There were white women who were intimidated by black women entering into the same bathrooms at a time because they were just intimidated by the nature of a black woman being and you know, they used a lot of the same excuses and a lot of the same arguments that people do now for trans women. So you know, this is the lens in which how we view blackness in America is unique to the United States and to our society. And quite frankly, you know, we need to investigate that, and we need to think harder about the way that we interpret black people just being. And we'll kind of look at a piece of that a little bit later on. You know, we'll look at a piece of kind of what I'm talking about. I think the Shapiro video that we are going to watch later, absolutely, will kind of demonstrate what I mean by that. The reaction of bystanders reflects what can happen to many when they witness a crisis. Sorry, said Lee Ann Deshawn Cook, assistant professor of social work at Juanita, yeah, no, that's Juanita College, whatever. Mr. Vasquez says it appears that Mr. Neely was suffocating, but after learning he died, he became troubled by what he had seen. Oh yeah, wait. Oh right, okay, sorry, I skipped a paragraph. They quote, were experiencing various levels of fight, flight, or freeze. Had someone simply offered the homeless man a bottle of water or a snack, he might have been able to calm down, re-engage with his rational brain, and would still be alive today. Yeah, this is what I was saying earlier. Like, we need to have a gentler, I think, approach as a society overall. Not to say that every interaction should be approached with that. Sometimes there is danger, but we can't always approach every interaction we have as if there is danger. Workers from the Bowery Residents Committee, which does homeless outreach in the subways, had known Mr. Neely since 2017, according to a person familiar with his history with social services. A team had spotted him on the subway as recently as March 22nd. He appeared to be struggling with both mental illness and substance use abuse, according to his records. At one point, he lived at a safe haven shelter, which has more privacy and fewer restrictions than other shelters. Until recent years, the subway was where Mr. Neely had felt happy and free to perform as a dancer, said his friend Moses Harper, an artist who met Mr. Neely in 2009 when he was 16 years old. Mr. Neely would dress up at Michael Jackson during his Thriller stage and ride the trains moonwalking in front of commuters. Mr. Neely and Miss Harper, who also impersonates Michael Jackson, bonded over being street artists. Miss Harper said she lost touch with Mr. Neely until she saw him again on a cold day in 2016, walking through the subway cars with his head down. The two left the station and walked several blocks together, talking. Okay, this is more. Okay. Okay. Miss Harper said she urged him to come find her when he was ready to get help. He said, "I'm going to get it together," and that's the last time I saw him. Emmon Thompson, 30, who lives in Jamaica, Queens, said she first saw Mr. Neely about 2 weeks ago at around 1 a.m. after she boarded the F train in Lower Manhattan. He was very upset at the time, and most of us just looked at him. He said he needed help and kept repeating the words food, shelter, I need a job. Miss Thompson saw him again a week later at about 8 p.m. when she and her 8-year-old son were on a Manhattan-bound F train. She said she gave him some money and thanked her for 5 minutes. And he thanked her for 5 minutes. Mr. Neely seemed tired. Miss Thompson said and told her he was embarrassed. He was embarrassed that he had not showered. I could tell he was at his wit's end. You know, he didn't look as if he wanted to beg, and he looked mad that he even had to do that. Yeah, nobody. It really bothers me. It really, really fucking bothers me when people do this pretend, being homeless is great meme. It's really fucking damaging. And it's really fucking delusional also. The idea that like there are people who think that, oh, it's supposed to be great to be homeless. I just hang out on the like in the hot ass sun, and people will pay me to just stand there. And it's like, do you think you make anywhere near the amount of money you make for your hourly wage? Is that what you think? You think every hour consistently somebody is coming to give that person like 15, 20 bucks consistently? No. Like it's ridiculous. We need to respond better to homeless people, and we need to respond as individuals, or at least as a society. We need to broadly, as individuals, all of us could stand to be a little bit more empathetic toward all of us, but as a society and as the legal structures that we build for ourselves, we need to be better about approaching homeless people and understanding where they're coming from in the moments that they're in, and what we can actually do to reduce danger and reduce harm in those situations. But either way, this is, a man is dead, another man is probably going to go to jail. And it's all, and I said it earlier, it's because our elected officials are just not really all that interested in solving the problem. It's just not something that they want to put money towards. And that's a priorities thing. That is a priorities that is how we've set our priorities here in the United States. But anyway, that's it. The thing that they tell, like at the end of all YouTube videos where they tell you to like click on one of these like things to watch more videos. Yeah, I've been meaning to film one of those. So that's what I was doing. I was just setting it up to film one.